Hello, viewers, and welcome back to another of my Starfield for Beginner series. In this episode, we're going to cover upgrading your ship.
You should inspect your ship for heat leeches every couple Need some work done?
So, at pretty much any landing pad, you go over and you talk to the ship services technician, and you would choose to view and modify your ships.
Okay, no problem.
Now, if this is a ship that you've captured, let's say it was a pirate ship, you've taken it. The first thing you have to do before you can do any modifications to it is you would have to register it. So down in the bottom right there, and you can also do this even while you're out in space or whatever, flying around, and there's going to be a cost to register. So you would click on the start button of the controller or the appropriate keyboard button shown. Whoops, it's not the start button, it's the media button. I did not intend to do that, but here we go. So the register button, it would cost 13,500 credits to register this ship. You don't make a lot of money by capturing ships and selling them, because in order to sell this thing you have to register it first, and if you go to sell it, you're only going to get the 16,000 credits that's shown on the lower left. So you're making 3,000 credits on that. You got way more than that out of the captain's locker and the cargo hold when you captured the ship. So it's really not worthwhile. Typically you capture ships because you want them to upgrade for your own use. Now, I'm not going to bother to register this because I'm going to do that at another time, but here's another ship that I've captured and that I have registered. You know what? Not this one. This is a nightmare to live through. We'll do this one though. This one I have registered. I think I looked at some modifications. I haven't decided exactly what I'm going to do with it. Nope, actually not even this one. We'll modify this one. So first we go into the ship builder. So you push the X button. Actually before we go in there, the other option is you can upgrade your ship. I don't normally recommend that, and the reason for that is because you can only select weapons or components to go into the exact same spot. So for instance, I can't add another missile launcher. All I can do is select this, and this is the choice of what I can put onto that particular slot to upgrade it. Or I can go over to the engines, and I would automatically upgrade both of these engines. But that's the only option I have. I can't mix and match two different engines. And then the cost for doing this upgrade is showing up in the top there in red. So it shows the vendor credits, my credits, and then how much this upgrade would cost. So it really doesn't give you a lot of freedom in what you want to do. Shield generator, same thing. I've only got two to choose from because it wants to be one of the generators shown here. So it's very limiting in what you can do to your ship. Generally, I don't bother with the upgrades at all. The real star of the show is the ship builder. And in this instance, that's the X button. And this allows us to move around using the controller. It allows us to swap out any of the parts that are on here. We can remove parts. We can delete parts if we wanted to. We could change to different parts. We can try different things out. And you can really change up your setup a little bit more. Let's say, for instance, you wanted to pull these fuel tanks off here, drop them down onto there. You want to put an engine maybe on top of it. You want to go with something that's a little lower profile. That's going to give you a lower mobility, of course. And your ship stats are showing across that bar along the bottom there. But we'll delete this engine. That would only give me 38 mobility. That's pretty crappy. So let's see if we can find a better engine for it. So for that, we go into... Sorry, I should have explained that. If you click the add button anywhere in empty space, it'll bring up the item window, And you can tab through the different sections here. So we'll go in and we'll find engines. And let's see what our options are. The White Dwarf. We got the White Dwarf 3000. The Hercules. Now some of these are unlocked by the level that your character is at. Some of them are unlocked by the skills that you've trained. For instance, if I go in and I look at this engine, the Supernova, you can see that in the bottom of the stats there on the left that it requires Starship Design Rank 1. And there's a number of engines that actually require Rank 1. Some stuff you'll have to unlock with skills. Some of these engines, like for instance the Hercules engines, I don't believe they unlocked until level 20, because I don't recall seeing them in this builder menu before. They're also a B-class engine, which means you need to have a B-class reactor in it. So that's the other thing about your building is, you start with your reactor and then everything else kind of matches up to that. You can't put B-class weapons or B-class grav drive or B-class engines onto a Class A reactor. But assuming that you have the ship piloting skill, you could always change this over to a B-class reactor. In fact, just for chuckles, let's do that. So we'll go to reactors. And we'll find a B-class. Ooh, B-21. Sweet. Now this has no rear attach points, so it may not necessarily be the most ideal of reactors to put into it. And that's actually the highest output one. Or a B-18. So let's say I want to go with this one because I want to have that rear attach point. We're going to do some rebuilding on the ship. So we pull the old reactor out. We drop the new one in place. And then we could sell the old one. And by that I just mean delete. And you can see that that new reactor is going to cost 19,525 525 credits. Huh. Oh, it's because I deleted one of these engines. So that's why it's not the full cost on it. Now if I delete this, the price is going to go down more because I get a slight rebate for any parts that I delete. It's nowhere near what the buy cost is for that part, but it is a bit of a rebate. So we can then put that back, for instance. And now we can afford to put our B-class engines and shields. So let's go back in there and we'll find our engines. And we'll scroll back down to the ones we were looking at. Hercules. And those are 9,700 each. And we'll drop that in. I don't think we will drop that in there. So that kind of sits down a little bit low. So we'll put the grav drive there. And we'll put it at the back. And then if I push Y, it'll duplicate whatever's highlighted, and Y again will flip it. Okay, so that's put a nice fat set of engines on the back end of this thing. Now I still need to have a set of fuel tanks on it, but I don't necessarily need these engines, so I can delete them. And at this point, I've got all that empty space there. What could I do with that? Well, let's go in and add a hab. So for that, we'll scroll into the hab section, and we've got Nova Galactic and Deimos. And let's say we wanted Nova Galactic all-in-one berth, A or B version, the armory, the captain's quarters. So we could select captain's quarters, luxurious living. And we can put that in there. And we still need to have a fuel tank on there. And our options, we can either drop this up at the top, like it was before, Maybe we think those engines are sitting a little bit low, so we can raise them up. And that's up and down on the D-pad to change the level that you're working on. And then the rest of it is just moving around using the left stick on the controller. The right stick does rotation. So it's quite easy to get around. Whoops. And then A to either select that part so you can move it around, or reattach it to the ship. Okay, so that doesn't look too bad. It looks a little bit different. We got a B-class reactor. It's got a little bit more output than the stock one. We still have the crappy little shield, so let's go see what we can do about that. A-class shield. Let's see what we got in the Bs. Okay, we got a B-class for 505, 610. Now, one thing to be aware of when you're looking at these, other than the price, is when you look at the maximum power. This one has a maximum power of 5. This one's got a maximum power of 6. So this one, if we were to put it on there, has a maximum power of 12, which means that it's going to suck up all but 6 units or 6 power from my reactor if I was to use this reactor. So even though it's got a maximum strength of 1450, whereas this one's down at 610, you're paying through the nose for that. You can only have one shield, one docker, one cockpit, one grav drive, and one reactor. So you can't double up and put like 2 reactors or 2 shield modules or something like that. But let's suppose that we want to put this one on. So go back and we will delete this shield, and we'll decide to stick this one on in its place. So we got a B-class reactor, we got a B-class set of engines on it. We're still at an A-class grav drive, but we have 100% mobility, which is one of the stats that you want to look for. Now our top speed is only 140. A-class engines max out mostly at 150, B-class max out mostly at 140, and C-class max out at 130. There is a skill that you can use to upgrade that speed, and Sam Coe, which is one of the characters you meet, I believe he has the skill, so having him on your crew will upgrade your ship speed a little bit. But for the most part, those are your limits. There is one A-class engine with a top speed of 180, but they don't unlock until somewhat later in the game. I haven't unlocked them yet, and this character's level 20. Now you decide, okay, I don't really like the look of them fuel tanks up there. Can we make it look a little bit sleeker? So for that, you could go into your structural, and these are mostly cosmetic parts. So what are the options for that? We got splines. We got fairings. Now, what if we were to put this fairing Nope, that's the rear. What if we were to put the rear version of it and stick that up there? That's not really a great look. Can't say I'm too jazzed about that. It's got a nice slope on the back, but it doesn't match the cockpit. So a couple of options that you could do. One that I've used on this cockpit in the past, or on this this sort of cockpit configuration, is something like maybe like one of these. And then maybe one of these. And it sort of matches it in a little bit. You have a couple of weapon hardpoints on there. Typically, I don't like to put weapons back here where it looks like they're going to be shooting through the ship, but that's just a matter of personal preference. Now, if we were to go with this ship, we would not be able to use it because the fuel tank isn't attached. It's giving me an error message that it's unattached. I've got unattached modules. So we'd have to go with a side-mounted fuel tank, and there is plenty of those things available. this one, for instance. So we select it, Y to flip it, stick it onto the hull, delete that. And if I wanted to go with this, I would be looking at 59,000 credits for this particular upgrade. We got our B-class engines. We can afford to haul a lot more weight. So maybe we decide we want to upgrade our cargo space. Right now we only got 200, and that's all coming from the cockpit. So let's see what we can do with that. And some of these don't unlock until higher levels. This one you need, I believe it's level 20, because I've never seen it on one of the ship builds till now. On this character, I should say. I've got higher level characters. But you also need Starship Design Rank 1. Same thing with this. You need Starship Design Rank 1. These things can be flipped in various directions. So you can have this mounted to the front or the back, and you can use this to sort of fill out your ship and put like a nice little slope onto it if you want to. Basically just use it to contour your ship. But this one, it's going to sit on the back here, and it's going to look a little bit funny, so rather than doing that, I think we'll go with a little smaller one. Let's see what else we have. That's pretty low profile. It's 300 cargo. So if we were to choose that, it'll add 64 tons. Now you see how the mobility has gone down to 97. So if we chose instead to get a smaller one, this one here is only 48 tons. And if we add this, it's only 225 cargo instead of 300, but our mobility stays at 100. So that's something that you're going to have to kind of do a trade-off on. I don't really think the 3 points that I'm missing are going to be that big a deal. So if I was doing it, I would probably go with the larger one. And it looks not bad, but it could use a paint job. Now, there's two different ways you can do that. You can either select an individual part, click on the left stick, and it'll bring up your color window here. And at that point, you can go through and you can select color number 1, and you can go through the presets here. Let's go with something kind of a little bit garish maybe. And then color number 2, that's presumably the stripes on it. So we'll go with green and black, or it's actually a gray color. And then color number 3 is the frontier. And we'll go with a nice bright orange. Or do we go with a dark orange? Who can say? Now, whenever you modify a color and then you approve it, it's always added to your color wheel. And you go, okay, that's not a bad color. I kind of like the green and black thing. So what you can then do is highlight any part, and then click the left bumper to select the entire ship, and then you can go in and you can do the same thing. You bring up your color selector, you go to color 1, and you select everything for color 1 on the ship is going to be that green color. The next one will be sort of the dark gray, and then the third one will be your sort of dark orange. And you've quickly painted your entire ship. And if you decide, okay, well this looks not bad, but with the cargo hold, I would rather have the green to be the actual color of the boxes, and then I'd like the little frame here to be the gray. What you would do is you just select that one separately, and this one you only have 2 colors, so you make color 1 your green. Nope, sorry, your gray. Color 2 is the boxes, and there you've just reversed them. So you can do like basically the entire ship color scheme all at once, and then you can go in and you can modify it to specific parts. Maybe you think it's a little bit backwards from what you want it to be. A lot of times your weapons won't recolor. Now the other thing is that you can also change up your weapons, same way as you've done this. We can now go up to B class, but I'm going to change one of the weapons just to show you another one of these warnings. And for that we can choose the start button to get the flight check shown just above the stat bar. And it's missing a weapon assignment. There's a missile launcher and there's a laser. Oh, it's because there is nothing assigned to group number 3. Now let's suppose that you wanted to put a third weapon group on here, and we're going to go with a ballistic just for chuckles. Weapons, cannon, hull damage. Okay. You know what? Rather than doing that, let's do a B class. So we'll scroll down until we get into the Bs. And now we'll look for one that's got hull damage. Nice big B class weapon. We drop that right onto there. And now it's showing the error as being in red, not in yellow. That means that this is something that you have to solve, or it won't let you save your changes. So we go into here again. We have an unassigned weapon. You put the Mauler cannon onto that. And now it says everything is nominal. And that means that weapon group 1 is going to be the laser, weapon group 2 is going to be the missiles, weapon group 3 is going to be the ballistic. And if you decide that you want to change the button that they're assigned to, let's say you want your ballistics to always be your primary weapon, which was the right trigger by default. Secondary weapon is the left trigger by default. I've switched it to the right bumper. Third weapon is always the Y by default. So let's say that you wanted to swap those things. What you'd go in is you'd go back to the weapon assignment, and you could assign, let's say, your primary weapon, weapon group 0. Sorry, I gotta do this again. We're in here, weapon group 0. I want to make that the cannon. Then I want to make this the laser. And finally I want to make this the missile launcher. And it's still your nominal setup. And then if I go to exit, it's going to give you one final chance here. You can either accept this. I'm going to go back actually. The final price spent is going to be 60,257 credits. There's no miscellaneous ship parts kicking around. If there was any disconnected parts, you'd have a fatal error on here, and it would go to message and it'd say ship's got unattached modules. And then if I try to exit from here, it's going to say that it can't finalize it, and your only options are to cancel the modifications or to go back into the editor. So at that point, if I want to exit, if I just choose accept, the ship will be fixed the way that it is right now. However, I don't want to spend 70,000 on this thing, so I'm going to choose cancel modification, and it drops me right back out, and it undoes everything that I've just done. Now, if I go back into the shipbuilder again, let's say, ooh, that's pretty scary where you get back to that one button, and if you mispush a button, you just spent all that money. If you're worried about that, you just want to come in here and play around a little bit and see what you can do. All you have to do is leave a part disconnected. And in fact, it can be any new part. You can just drop some random thing here, structural porthole. It will not allow me to leave, so I can edit as much crap as I want to. I can change up as much stuff as I want. I can go into here, put on different engines. Duplicate that. Delete these, delete that, put those on, look at it, it says I got 100% mobility with those engines, Everything else about it looks fine. The only error that I've got in the entire ship is that there's an unattached part. So it won't allow me to leave. And that's actually a pretty good safety measure that you can do. You can dick around with your ships as much as you want. And then when you are finally ready to leave, you simply delete that part. And now there's a warning because it's only got 2 weapon groups instead of 3. But it would allow me to save that and to exit from this build, and that would be my new configuration for this ship, just having the engines changed. And you could do that with any parts that you wanted to. Swap out the engine, swap out the reactor, whatever. Anyways, that's how ship modification works. Gonna cancel that again. Hope that was informative to you. And yeah, it's not something you really have to be scared of, because even if you go in there and you completely ruin it, you've repainted it, you've made a complete mess of it, you don't like what you ended up with, you can always cancel out right up to that final step. And as long as you cancel out, you haven't spent any credits. You might have put 100,000 credits worth of parts on it and think it looks like crap. So you just say, you know what, I'm not digging it, I'm just going to cancel my modifications, and you don't spend any money on it. It just took you some time, you tried out a bunch of stuff, you got comfortable with working stuff around in the editor, but there was no actual fee for doing any of that. Anyways, thanks for watching. I hope you found that informative. It was a little longer than most of my Starfield beginner videos, but there's a lot of stuff to cover in this. And it is worth spending some time, maybe half an hour, 45 minutes, an hour, just playing around with your own ships in there. And if you just do simple swaps like a reactor swap, or upgrade the engine, or maybe repaint it, and you really like what you've done, it's a relatively low cost, you can always accept it and just go with that, or just cancel it out if you don't like what you ended up with. Anyways, thanks for watching. Come back for the next one.